Recording has started. So good evening, welcome everybody. Welcome to tonight's session. Okay, this is Pathway CTM. We're doing the Job Ready scheme, which we've been doing for quite a while now, and we're going through, and we're with HS2 tonight. Okay, HS2, huge project which is happening in the UK at the moment. I'm not going to say too much more about it because genuinely I know something about it, but I don't know a whole lot about it. So rather than saying the wrong thing, we're going to leave it to the experts, and we have got 3 people from HS2 represented tonight, and we're going to meet them in a few minutes. Okay, the Job Ready scheme, we're going to be looking at top tips to be great at work. Okay, there's lots of different ways of being great at work, and I'm quite excited by tonight's session because what we're going to talk about is one of the things that I probably struggle with and have always struggled with. Okay, and you're going to find out in a few minutes what that is. So who am I? Why am I here then? So if we're talking to HS2, it's Job Ready. Why am I here? Well, my name's Max. I work for Pathway CTM. Okay, I'm the outreach manager. What does that mean? Well, my job is I go into schools virtually and I do outreach sessions, a bit like this, but tailored more to how to write a winning CV, how to prep and pass an assessment center, how to prep and pass an interview. Okay, it's not about me telling you how to pass the interview, more how to prepare yourselves for what is coming. And the reason why I can do that is because we work with companies like HS2. We work with a lot of big companies as well, and we do a lot of different things to bring those employers to students and show them what the opportunities are so that you can meet them and have more interactions with them. But also we bring you to the company so that you can see the opportunities and have a better idea of what your future could look like. The Job Ready scheme, we're looking at how to be effective at work. You know, we have done sessions about how to write a CV, how to approach an interview. Now we're looking more at the side of at work, how could you be productive? But also, we're fortunate that tonight we're joined by 2 apprentices. So if any of you are thinking about, am I going to do a degree apprenticeship? Am I going to do an apprenticeship? Or am I going to go to university? You're not quite sure. Ask questions as we go along. We've got representatives here that can help answer those questions. It's not just about HS2 and it's not just about trains and time management. If you've got questions that are valid for them, ask as we go along. I'll keep an eye on the questions as we go through. Okay, so that's Pathway CTM. That's me. That's what I do. I've said it already. We've got a chat box and we've got a Q&A box. Use the chat box. We're going to ask you some questions and we're going to launch some polls and you'll be able to answer those as we go along. The Q&A box, if you've got a question you think, I want to ask this question, and it might not be the right time to ask it, but it's in your head, write it in the Q&A box because then I'll see it and I'll know when the right time to ask it is, and we will try and cover all the questions. Don't wait until the end of the session, because if you wait till the last 10 minutes, we might have too many questions, you'll miss out on your opportunity, you might forget it by that point. So just get it in the box. We might ask you questions as we go along, so put your answers in the chat box as we go along, okay? Just make sure you can find those 2 and you see where they are. Okay, I am now going to launch a poll, which should appear on your screen. If it doesn't, there is a button on your mobile or on your laptop that says polls. Click on it and the question will come up and you can interact with it. Let me launch that. Okay, that's launched. I'll go through the questions quickly. Which of the following applies to you? Are you year 13, 12, 11? Have you left school or college in the last 3 years? Are you a teacher or advisor, or are you other? Have you been to one of our previous Job Ready sessions? Yeah, I've been to multiple. No, I've been to one, or no, this is my first one. Let us know. Which region are you from? I'm not going to name all the regions. Northeast down to southwest and southeast. They're all in there. Let us know where you're representing. What's your main reason for joining us today? You want to hear more about HS2 and their available opportunities? Or you want to network with employers, which are also in the right place to do? Or you've been following the Job Ready series and you've come in along because you want to keep learning more and more different things? Or you're just here to have fun? Let us know. So whilst we answer those questions, we are going to meet the panelists, and I'm going to start with Richard. So good evening, Richard. Welcome. How are you?
Hello, good evening, Max, and good evening, everyone who's joining us on the call. So my name's Richard Winter. I'm an education manager at HS2. So we're a really long-term project. It's going to take 20 years to finish this project. So my role really is thinking about who's going to work for us in 5 or 10 years' time, even 20 years' time, and be trying to get young people excited and knowledgeable about the opportunities that are going to be there for them. Going to hand over next to Achure.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, my name is Achure. I'm an apprentice project manager at HS2. Been with the business for around about 7 months now, and I'm actually going to share a little bit more myself as I get into my part. So more to come.
Okay, we'll keep that on ice. Perfect. And then Chelsea.
Hi everyone. Making sure I'm off mute this time. Yes, I'm an apprentice project manager in the 2019 report for HS2. And yeah, you'll hear a bit more about my career journey so far in the next slides.
Perfect. And remember what I said to you guys earlier, we've got apprentices here, and apprentices come in all shapes, sizes, age ranges, and everything, and different experiences and areas and roles. If you've got questions about it, ask them. You've got two great reps here. And you've got the education manager as well. Sorry, can we go back a second? Because I think I was a bit shocked. Did you say that the HS2 project is going to last, did you say 20 years?
I'm on mute. Yeah, we're expecting around about 20 years. I think it's around about 2040 is probably the scheduled end date.
Wow. Okay, I didn't quite I don't think I realized that the project was that long or that big. Okay, so that's a big project. Let's have a look at the poll results. So let me end that. I'm going to share the results so you can see them on the screen. So which of the following applies to you? We've got 79% of students are in year 12, 5% year 13, 11% year 11. That's really good. 79% in year 12. So just to give a bit of context, that's you guys that are in your first year of A-levels, possibly thinking about what are your opportunities available for after next year once you finish your A-levels. It's the right time to be here, to be finding out about this. I mean, there's no wrong time, but you've got time and you can do your research and think about it and see the opportunities available, but ask the questions too. Have you been to one of our previous job ready sessions? 63% no, this one's your first, okay, but 21% have been to multiple. Okay, that's good. So we're seeing some of you guys coming back, okay. Obviously, our aim in these job ready sessions is that as we go along and as we've educated you and as you've signed up and seen the resources that are available, that you've then gone on to get jobs. So it's kind of a success for us that we see a few multiples return because you want to learn more, and that we see new people coming on because it's benefiting them and allowing them to move on to opportunities. Okay, which region are you from? Okay, 37% London. What else? We got 21% from the Midlands. That's the next biggest represented area. That's great. 21% from the Midlands. Brilliant. And what's your main reason for joining us today? 68% have said they want to hear more about HS2 and the available opportunities. That's fantastic. Okay, that kind of sets the picture for us, right? So now we understand what we're looking at and what we're doing today and the kind of audience that we've got. So let's get going. I'm going to stop talking because I love a chat, but it's not about me, it is about HS2. So I am going to hand over to Richard. So good evening, welcome. We've met you already. Let us know more. What are we doing?
Yeah, so we know HS2 is in the news a lot. You know, you can't have not heard of HS2 at some point in the last year or two of your life. And obviously quite a few of you have said you come to a session because you want to find out more. We're going to start off by finding out how much do you already know about HS2. So we're going to do a quick quiz about some of the kind of main facts about the project. So without further ado, on to the first question, Max.
Okay, I'm launching it as a poll on your screen and then changing the slide. So Richard's keeping me on my toes tonight. How fast will HS2 trains travel? How fast will HS2 trains travel? 125 miles an hour, 225 miles an hour, or 500 miles an hour? Okay, let's get those answers in on the poll. Let's see what we're getting. I can tell you so far, B, 225 is winning. C, 500 is not too far behind. Okay, just a few more of you. I'm going to put a time limit on this because we've got a lot to get through tonight.
Yeah.
Okay, right, done.
Quick fire round this is.
Let's share that. 82% have said 225. Can I go to the next slide?
You can indeed. And that was the correct answer. 225 miles an hour is the speed that our trains will be going at. And that's pretty much the same speed as a Formula One racing car. And it's also going to be the fastest train on conventional rail in the world. So the magnet ones are a bit faster, but fastest normal train in the world. So yeah, pretty exciting stuff. Next question, please. Okay, so how many seats will there be on an HS2 train? The options are 400, 765, or 1,100.
Oh, this one's a bit more divisive. 765 is in second place. 1,100 is currently in first. I'm going to give everybody 30 seconds to answer this one. There's a countdown on my screen. Don't worry. Come on. A few more seconds. 5 more seconds to get your answers in. What we got? What we got? Okay. 72% have said 1,100 and 22% said 765. What is it?
The correct answer is 1,100 seats, Max. Yeah, and like I say, that's the same as 3 jumbo jets, so a lot of people. And to think how long that train's going to be as well. If you've ever been on one of those kind of Virgin trains going down to London, those really long trains, our train's going to be twice as long as that. So you don't want to be on the wrong end of the platform if you've booked a seat in the carriage at the other end. On to the next one, please.
Okay.
Okay, so how many miles of tunnel will HS2 be building? Is it 5, 25 or 45 miles?
How many miles of tunnels? Remember, you've got 30 seconds to answer this, guys. Don't think about it too much. Go for the first one you think. How many miles of tunnels is HS2 building? Well, we're going to find out later, but I've got a vague idea where it starts, but I'm not really sure where it finishes. So that would condition my answer. But what we got? We've got the last 5 seconds. Let's get some more answers in. Last 5 seconds. Done. Let me share those results. Okay, 67% said 45 miles, 27% said 25 miles.
Well, the majority had it right again for this one. So it is 45 miles of tunnels. And I believe that is just about enough to get from, next slide, London to Brighton. So a pretty long tunnel that would be. Obviously, we're not actually going down to Brighton, but that gives you an idea of what the distance would be. And I think it's maybe one more question we're doing for this slide. I can't quite remember now.
There is one more question. There is one more question until we get to the ones at the end, right? Okay,
yeah, so more questions later on. How many miles of bridges will HS2 build? Will it be 37, 47 or 57 miles of bridges?
Okay, 30 seconds to answer this one again, guys. What we got? 37, 47 or 57 miles? What are we looking at?
I've completely forgot the answer to this one.
Don't worry, you'll find out in a second. Oh, we can test your knowledge. There we go.
Oh.
How many miles of bridges will HS2 build? Last 5 seconds to answer, guys. Last 5 seconds. Is it 37, 47 or 57? Okay, done. 30 seconds is up. Let me share the results. Ooh. There's a tie. 41% both on 37 and 47 miles. And I believe it's 37 miles. Look at that.
Let's see what the answer is. There we go, 37 miles. Congrats, well done. If you got that one right. And to let you know again how far that actually is, it's enough to build a bridge across the English Channel. So pretty impressive distance. Again, it won't be one 37-mile long bridge. It'll be a lot of different bridges, but there's some serious engineering going on this project, and that's what makes it quite an exciting and generationally changing project. So we're going to be moving on now. I'm going to be passing on, I believe, to Chelsea, who's going to give you a very brief introduction to HS2.
Thank you, Richard. So yes, as I introduced myself before, my name is Chelsea Evans and I'm an apprentice project manager at HS2. So if you go to the next slide, please. So we're talking to you about HS2 in the context of it. So bringing Britain closer together. HS2 will be the new high-speed backbone of our rail network, connecting the city centres of Birmingham, Manchester, Leeds and London. Once fully completed, we will have built 345 miles of new high-speed track, which is the equivalent of over half the length of Britain's Land's End to John O'Groats as the crow flies. When fully operational, up to 48 HS2 trains with up to 1,100 seats each will be running every hour on the UK's rail network. This is a huge undertaking and Britain's first new intercity railway north of London in the last 100 years, which is Europe's largest infrastructure project, which is why we are looking to bring as many people on board as we can, because those where we've identified skill shortages. So next slide, please. So why Britain needs HS2? So why HS2? HS2 is designed to address 3 key problems facing the nation. HS2 will provide more capacity, cut carbon and deliver better connectivity. Capacity is about having more seats on trains so that passengers can have more comfortable journeys. Our trains will be faster, which means journey times will be shorter, bringing people closer, and this is all about connectivity. Carbon is about the environment, so more trains means that fewer people need to travel by car or by plane. Next slide, please. So the journey so far. So here are snapshots of what we've been getting up to. So when we are delivering sessions in schools, students almost ask when will HS2 start? So it's already started. A lot's been happening. So phase 1, the route London to Birmingham, we have completed the enabling works, including things like ecological surveys, archaeology, utility, and road diversions, including groundworks and site clearances. So we're now getting ready for the main work civils, which includes tunnels, bridges and viaducts that carry the railway. Next slide, please.
Fantastic. And I'm just going to jump in a second. And for you students that are listening to this, look at what has just been said and about how much of it has already started, how long the project is going to last. And look at the bit, the bit that makes me think is ecological surveys, archaeology, utility, road diversions, groundworks. all of those things means that there's somebody or a department or a team working on those areas. So now you start to see, when you look at a project like HS2, it's not just the railway, it's not just trains. What does that involve? And obviously we're talking about that today, but I want you guys to open your minds as well. And when you see projects like this, it's not just about one thing. There are hundreds of jobs, probably thousands actually, but there's so many different areas that you can get involved in. And also you're hearing and you will hear the different roles that the two apprentices do as well. They're two out of thousands of roles. So that's what I want you guys to open your mind to. Think about, there's so many different opportunities available in so many different areas. Sorry, Chelsea, I've probably broken your flow, but carry on.
No problem. So the next slide is looking at strategic goals. So we have 7 on the screen. We are more than just a railway. And our strategic goals covers catalyst for growth. What we're talking today about skills and employment. And it's also a social project, so looking at sustainability and being a good neighbour. So our strategic goals also include efforts to ensure that we create jobs for British companies, protect and preserve the environment, set world-class standards for health and safety, and making sure that we treat local communities who will host our infrastructure with respect and sensitivity to their concerns. Thank you.
I think I just moved that slide too quickly. I apologise there, Chelsea.
No, it's fine. Over to you, Richard.
That's brilliant. Thanks for that introduction, Chelsea. Hope that's got people thinking about things. So as Max said, these sessions that you're attending each week are all about giving you those skills that are going to help you be competitive for getting a job and doing really well when you get into work. And the session that I'm doing today and HS2 are doing today is around time management and prioritization. So I think this is something that we've all felt at times in our life, that we've got too much to do. There aren't enough hours in the day to get everything done. And that might be the case at work. It might also be the case when you're at home or when you're at school. So it affects all of us at different times. And we know that when we have got too much to do, we can feel overwhelmed, we can feel anxious. And how we might react to that is by doing nothing, because we're sort of putting off that decision and not knowing where to start. So that's obviously a problem, because it means that the situation gets even worse and you get even more stressed and anxious about things. So this idea of prioritization and knowing what to do first, what to do next, how to fit those different jobs in is a really important life skill and a very important work skill for sure. So to talk about this, I wanted to tell you a bit of a story. And hopefully this story is going to sort of demonstrate to you how important prioritization is. So Max will stay on this screen and on the camera for now. And I'm going to show you a jug. So this story, if you read it on the internet, it talks about a philosophy professor who had a jar. Well, I'm not a philosophy professor, I'm an education manager, and I've got a jug. But the professor said to the students, I'm going to put some rocks in my jar, and I've got some real rocks here. I brought them for my allotment, so I'm going to use them to fill up the jug. So the professor filled up the jug until he couldn't fit any more rocks in the jug. And he asked the students, is the jug full? And the students all agreed, yes, that jug is full. But then the professor, this jug's getting rather heavy, I didn't think this through, took some pebbles. I've got my pebbles here. And the professor put some pebbles on the top. And then I've got all over the table as well. Shook the jar around, and clearly we're able to fit more things into that jug. The professor asked the students, is the jug full? And the students said, yes, the jug is full. The professor then took some sand. I also have some sand. This is the great thing about having you have lots of rocks, pebbles and sand. And he poured some sand into the jug. Now, my partner cleaned the lounge the other day. He's not very happy that I've poured sand and pebbles all over the floor, but there we go. It's literally going everywhere. And again, if I shake it around, the sand starts to settle in. So I've really filled up this jug full of stuff. And kind of what this means, we're going to go on to now. So next slide, please, Max, sorry. So the rocks represent the things in your life that are the most important things, the things that you really wouldn't be happy and fulfilled in life without. And at the end of the day, if all you had in your life was those rocks, you'd still be sort of feeling like you had a fulfilled and happy life. Now, when it comes to work, the rocks that I have at work, those are the projects that are really my responsibility to deliver on, those big projects. So for example, at the moment, I'm planning a 6-week work experience program for students with special educational needs and disabilities. Now, that is my rock at the moment, because if I mess it up, I'm going to be letting people down. I'm going to be ruining the reputation of my company because we've committed to doing that. So that is one of my rocks at the moment. Now, at home, your rocks might be things like your health or your family. So what I want to suggest, Max, is if any of the people on the call want to suggest what their rocks are, they can put it in the chat. So what are your
Put it in the
rocks?
chat box. Put it in the chat box. Let's see what you got. What are your rocks?
The things that you really must have in order for your life to sort of be fulfilled and happy and good.
Got a couple of mine, and I've got family time.
Nice. I mean, it's the thing that can be quite hard to think of really quickly. I mean, it might be that if you're taking exams this year, that like your exams are your rock right now, that you have to put that as your priority above everything else because it will really impact on your future if you don't do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Come on,
Should we
guys,
go-
what we got? Let's get some things in the chat box. Have a think. What are your rocks? What are your important things in life? What's really important to you? Trying to think what else is important to me. I'm having a blank, apart from my family. You kind of have to say your family, right?
Maybe, yeah. Okay.
Friends, exercise time.
Yeah, like that.
Yeah, I agree with the exercise time. Actually, I was going to say cycling. Yeah. And my friends are important as well. Yeah. Okay, so we're starting to see. My work too. That's a big important thing for me.
Mm.
Okay.
And it might be really big projects like buying a house or having your first kid or something. Some of these things can be real big objectives that are going to take you years to achieve and the things that you kind of shape your life around. Should we go on to the next one then?
Yep.
The next one is the pebbles. So pebbles, they represent things in your life that matter, but you could live without. So if I think about work, my pebbles are often the tasks that other people have asked me to do to help them with things. And that task could be important to that person, but it's not really helping me to push on with those big projects that I'm working on. So I have to be careful not to take on too many of those pebbles. And an example is in the last week, I was asked to be part of a judging panel for a competition. That's quite a nice thing to do. It helped out another team, but it wasn't really something that was helping me to achieve my big objective. So I've got to balance how many of those things I do. Now at home, your pebbles might be things like your hobbies, things that you enjoy doing, you might do for a few years, but maybe they might change as you get older, or might be things that you could miss out if you really had to. So what are your pebbles? What are those things that you really enjoy doing, that add meaning to your life, but you could sort of live without if you really had to?
Come on, guys, have a think. What are your pebbles? Things that mean something to, but you could probably live. Oh, this is a tough one. Tell you what, tough one for me. Football. Concerts. Now, I've seen the slides that are coming up. So, I mean, I don't want to have any disagreements here with anybody on the panel or whatever. But like one thing that does matter to me is football and watching Chelsea play. But having lived through a pandemic where I haven't been allowed to go to the stadium, you kind of realize you can live without it because you can watch it on TV. But I love going there. But it's really important to me, but I could probably live without it. And I know others on the panel might have questionable taste in terms of football. So when we're looking at extracurricular activities, yeah, I mean, yeah, extracurricular activities. Yeah. Richard, I was going to say something like housework. That's not meaningful to me, but it's something that matters because it needs to be done. But I can 100% live without it, right?
I like it. Well, let's go on to the final one, then the sand. So the sand represents the small things in life that fill up all your time, but really in the big picture aren't that important. So for me at work, the sand is emails. Every day I get 50 or 100 emails, and it's really easy to get kind of just stuck checking your emails every 5 minutes, answering other emails, and then suddenly your whole day is done. You haven't done any of the important jobs. Now at home, perhaps your stand might be checking social media, maybe seeing what's on your like Instagram or your TikTok posts and stuff. So again, what are your ideas? What is the sand? What is the stuff that you like doing, but it kind of wastes your time because it's not really that important? I bet we've got a few examples for this one.
Yeah, come on, guys. We've got a few examples of sand. I'm definitely putting the housework in the sand section, actually, now I think about it. Extracurriculars, we got gaming as well. Yeah, gaming's a good one. Gaming's a good one. What else we got? I suppose, like Richard said, social media. My God, how much of my life do I waste on Instagram? I don't even know how to use it properly, but I waste my life on there. Homework. Homework. Yeah, I suppose.
I think it can feel like that sometimes, can't it? If it's a task that doesn't make much sense why you've been asked to do it. Okay, well, we're nearly coming to the end of this section. So thank you for being honest about some of those things that you waste your time on. Yeah, we'll do it, and that's okay. But I need to kind of do this in reverse now. So this is going to make a horrible amount of noise. I'm going to take my big jug of stuff. I'm going to pour it through a sieve and try and separate it out. Because it's all very well if you start with the rocks. You can fit lots of good things in your life. But what about if you started with the sand instead? Like I said, I'm going to be in a lot of trouble with this. Okay, so I've filled up quite a lot of my jug just with the sand. I've now got to try and scoop out some of the pebbles. Okay, jar's about half full now. And now if I start putting in the rocks, you'll see the problem. Can't fit all the rocks in. So this is the lesson of this story, that if you start off your day, your week, your month by spending too much time focusing on those filler things, the things that aren't really important, you will miss out on doing the things that really matter and really add value and meaning to your life. Now, what that doesn't mean is that you should never, ever check emails or check your social media. It doesn't mean you should never, ever watch football or go to concerts. Those things are good and good to do. But the point is start with the big things first. So if you schedule in those rocks, if you make sure you get your homework done as soon as you get home from school, if you make sure, I don't know, you've done all your chores at the weekend before you go to the concerts, whatever it is, if you get things in the right order, then you'll find those little things kind of fit around the big jobs. The other lesson for this is that even if you do start by sorting out your rocks first, don't have too many rocks, because even if you put the rocks in the jar first, the jar will only fit a certain amount of rocks. And that's really important in life, is not to overload yourself, not to take on too many important things, because you'll find that you can't do them and you'll let people down. So it's a good lesson in life that it's okay to say no sometimes, to say, I'd like to help, but I can't because I've got too much on. So I guess those are the two messages I really wanted to say through this. It's start off with your rocks, plan the important things into your day first, and don't take on too many important things. Much better to tell someone you can't do it at the start than say you'll do it and then have to sort of let someone down later on. So that is my take on time management, but I'm going to be handing over to our two apprentices now to give you their take on what some of the day-to-day things mean in their working life around time management. So first of all, we're going across to Achure.
Perfect. And before we meet Achure again, I think that's some very valuable lessons that you guys have learned in there. And I think that we're conscious, and now I do a lot of sessions with students. I go into schools virtually and I do a lot of sessions, and I support students a lot of the time as well. So I'm always talking to them and hearing them. And I think that this representation of rocks, pebbles, sand is really useful for you guys to understand what's important at this moment in time. Look, we've all been through this horrible pandemic COVID situation. That's never going to change. And it's going to be one of the most difficult times in anybody's life that they've been through, and it builds resilience. But there's a lot of pressure has been put on you guys as well to change the way you're learning, the things that you're doing, the amount of time you're spending on it. And life has been chaotic. Think about what is important. Go for that. Look at the less important stuff and don't attach yourself to it. Like somebody, Elizabeth, put there that TV and YouTube is one of her bits of sand. Think about where it's important to place your time. And I'm sure that we've all learned and come to realize what is important in life. Now that we've had so many things taken away from us, we've learned what is important, okay? Try not to lose that, because the advice that Richard has just given you is valuable, such valuable advice now and in your work going forward. I struggle with time management in my job. I struggle with it, and I have done all my life, because I don't approach it the way Richard has just said. My brother is totally the opposite. My brother's the kind of guy who sees projects work. Even when we were at school, he's 5 years older than me. He had an assignment to do. He's done it within the first 2 days of the assignment being handed out, and he's still got 3 weeks till the deadline. And he's happy, enjoying himself, relaxing. I was the opposite. I was happy, enjoying myself, relaxing. 2 days before deadline, I'm panicking because I haven't done the assignment. And it's made me a lot grayer than it has him. So think about these things. Okay, so let's get on. You don't want to listen to me. Achure, let's meet you.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. So yeah, I'll just introduce myself a little bit more, discuss a little bit about my role at HS2 and some of my tips on time management. So yes, opening slide. On the left-hand side, this is myself on my wedding day. Probably needed a project management qualification for how to pin that to my actual like lapel because it took me hours. But yeah, that's me on my wedding day. I've since gone on to have 2 children. You might see them popping in and out of the room. Don't mind them. They're just doing them. On the right hand side, I've got a picture of Virgil van Dijk because I don't know. I just think the world made more sense when he was on the football pitch. Like I always used to smile, and that smile has been waning somewhat this season. But yeah, I'm a big football fan myself, and certainly longing for the days for him to come back on the pitch. If we take a look at the number 4, number 4 actually represents the amount of GCSEs that I left school with. So yeah, 4 GCSEs is what I left school with. I might get into a bit more detail about that later. Not too sure. Under so after school, I then went on to a sixth form college, Havering Sixth Form College, where I completed a maths and sociology GCSE. But again, I didn't complete my years there. So I then moved on to a college, it's called Havering College. And there I did a BTEC, and that was a business BTEC. It was a national diploma in business. And that was very good because it's very much aligned in terms of what I enjoy, what I'm about. And it was quite a good qualification for myself. So yeah, I finally got a bit more qualified. And then I started my working career. So after that, I started working for an organization in London, and it was a fitness regulation company. So I worked as a membership advisor. I then progressed through the business, had 3 different roles, and I eventually found myself as a corporate account manager within that role. So dealing with quite large gyms like your Fitness First, Virgin Actives, David Lloyd's, which are dealing with like their head of fitness and just making sure that all of their staff were qualified, they were compliant, and they were basically fit to train people. So it was quite a big role. And upon like being quite successful in that role, I was actually approached by Apple. So I was approached by Apple, and I went through how many interviews? I had 5 separate interviews, and I landed an account manager role with them. So primarily doing B2B sales with a lot of companies, working with their technology just to make sure that we can streamline the way that they would work and integrate Apple technology into the business. And really, really great opportunity. Absolutely loved it. And I loved it for a period of time. I think even prior to Apple, I always wanted to work within project management, and I also wanted to work for an organization that added some value towards society. I like my work to have meaning. So I was at a point now, in the bottom right, you'll see that picture, if not now, when. I was at a point where I said, when am I going to make a career change? I probably dragged my heels for a year or 2, and then I just bit the bullet, and I applied for HS2, applied for this apprenticeship, and 7 months later, here I am, learnt so much, and continuing to learn each and every day. So yeah, that's a bit more about myself. If you can go on to the next slide, please, Max. Okay, perfect. So yes, HS2 Land and Property, that's the area that I work in, and yeah, it's a very, very interesting area of the business. So we looked at all the stats and statistics in terms of what HS2 is going to deliver, and in order to deliver that and build the actual train line, we actually need to acquire land and property. And you think that's right from London through to Birmingham, going through to Leeds, and also Manchester as well. So I very much work in scoping out the land that we need, working with landowners to basically understand the requirements, and then very much about negotiation and making changes and alterations in terms of if there's any, I don't want to go too technical, but they're called undertakings and assurances. So basically, if there is something that needs to be changed, land and property very much deal with land and property very much deal with that. I just saw a message regarding the audio. I'm not too sure if it's myself.
No, it's. I think it's just Cameron. Everything else is fine. Don't worry, Cherry.
Right. Okay. Perfect. So yeah, at the moment, I'm currently in my 2nd placement within Land and Property, and that's the PMO, which stands for the Program Management Office. And that's the place where we basically develop programs of work and processes that allow people on the ground to actually go out and get the work done. And prior to this, I worked within a team called Safeguarding. And Safeguarding, we work directly with the Department for Transport, as well as the landowners. And that's where we actually identify the specific pieces of land that we need to build the line of route. And right now I'm managing a project, and that's in relation to acquiring land in a more streamlined way that would just improve the experience for our landowners. So that is just a little bit about land and property and myself. So the last slide, I just want to touch on some tips that I have used, not all in tandem, but at times I've used. And I'm hoping that one or two might land with you, and maybe you can try it out and just see how that works for you in relation to time management. So the person at the start line signifies start before you start. So typically my job is 9 to 5, but I make sure that I'm ready to start work at 8:30, because I think giving me that half an hour just gives you an opportunity to be a bit more proactive and not reactive. So you've got an opportunity to plan out your day, take a look at what meetings you might potentially have, and just make sure that you've highlighted those key priority tasks. And I always find that rather than, as I said, starting at 9 and starting at half an hour earlier, it just gives you time to settle and really just find that concentration before you start the day. This second one is quite a new one, audits. So I listen to podcasts quite a lot into personal development myself, and something that I've tried, and I was quite shocked by the results. And basically, you audit your time. So in hour blocks, you take a look at what you've actually done in that period of time. So say, for instance, I said, I'm going to be putting together slides for this presentation that I'm doing now, and it's going to take an hour. On the hour, when you actually look back in terms of what you did, you can actually get like quite a good understanding in terms of, was an hour spent on that, or was I looking at emails, or was I on my phone, which I'm never on my phone at HS2, but whatever, you start to sort of get an understanding in terms of how you're using your time. And it's not something that you do for a long time, so you do it for like a week, maybe two, and that will just give you a strong idea in terms of where you can actually refine what you do and how you can be a bit more focused in terms of just managing your time more effectively. What I also do is work in blocks as well. So I tend to sort of work in around about 50-minute blocks, to be fair, because I think if you're sort of working in 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hours, sometimes your ability to actually stay focused becomes quite constrained. So working in incremental blocks, there's different school of thought. Some people say 35 minutes, some people say 50 minutes, but I find 50-minute works for myself. I stand up, I have a stretch, maybe grab a drink, have a walk, and that just allows me to sort of settle my mind and then think, okay, as I come back to my desk, what is the next activity that I need to focus on that is going to move the needle the most? On the bottom left is mind mapping. And yeah, I suppose this links into what I mentioned about the 4 GCSEs. So this is also new to myself. So since being in HS2, I have recently been diagnosed with dyslexia. And it's something that I never knew of. Well, I had an inclination, but never really understood. So you think going throughout all my school life, all my working career, up until landing in HS2, I'm 33. I might look 23, but I'm actually 33 myself. And yeah, it's been very interesting just in terms of how things sort of relate to me and how things map to myself. So the notion of mind mapping is very much just sort of getting the key points out of your mind and being able to detail it on a page that will allow you to have a bit more clarity in thoughts. So rather than taking long form notes, what I tend to do is just literally put words in boxes and then connect them to like a larger theme. And that allows me to really just be focused in terms of what I'm doing. And that really saves a lot of time with sort of thinking about what is it that I need to do, because it's very much clear and on a paper to prompt me. I'll try and rush through the last ones, but I also have an action log as well. So in project management, there's action logs in terms of what needs to be done, when it needs to be done, and who's doing it. And I have my own personal action log. So if I'm in a meeting or at the start of the day, what I will do is just look at my action log in terms of what is it that I need to do. There's also a priority list on there as well. So that allows me to understand exactly what it is that I need to do. And then from that point there, I will either just quickly detail the top activities that need to be completed. So an action log is something that I found handy myself. The second one, I mean, sorry, the megaphone into the ear. It stands for ignore the screams. So similar to what Richard mentioned earlier, but in terms of those sand activities, you'll get a lot of people and a lot of emails that are coming to you, and they almost feel like screams. Like every single time like your email goes off, it's almost like a scream. I've actually turned off my notifications just so that I don't get that. But it's very, very important to try and ignore them and try and work in it. Try and ignore them and work in order of priority, because you'll be forever moving around and not getting too far if you continue to keep listening to those screens. And I suppose the last one is probably the biggest one, and it's communication as well. So in my role, it's very critical, in everyone's role, it's very critical to communicate. We're working on such a large scale project, and my ability to let my team know where I am, let my line manager know where I am, and also let my wife know where I am in terms of what I'm trying to do is very, very key. I think it allows me to sort of manage my time and just make sure that I can really flag those areas that I need potentially a bit of help with, or if I need just a bit more time. So yeah, there's 7 tips that I have to offer. I hope some of them resonate with yourself. I think I'm passing on to Chelsea now. Thank you.
That's some great stuff in there, Achura. Really great stuff. And guys, listen to what Achura said. You know, they're speaking from experience, and I think we're all in the same position. My time management at times can be appalling, and just listening to the stuff that's being spoken about starts to make me think, yeah, I know where I've slipped, and I know where I've fallen behind, and where I need to improve myself. Okay, and for you guys as well, you know, there is a lot going on, but also moving into the workplace is a new experience for you guys, and it can be daunting. It can be a bit difficult. I know it was for me working in an office in this kind of job, because I always worked in hospitality, so I was always managing shops and restaurants. Okay, I managed a team of 30 people, but I'm always serving customers. I'm never at a desk. I was always doing different things. Then I moved into an office and I was a bit like, what do I do now? This email, I've got this email thing, and people are asking me questions 24/7, and I couldn't handle it. Like Achura said, the screams, people were wanting things now, and I lost all sense of priorities because it wasn't an environment I was used to. That might be the same for you guys going on to an apprenticeship or even into full-time working. You'll need to take some time to think about these things and get used to it. But like you said, communicate. That's really important. Okay, and then also listen to Achura's story as well. You know, it's not always about having all the GCSEs and all the A levels and all the degrees in the world. It's about the person that you are, to get up and go, to take action, to do what you want to do, to follow what it is that you want to succeed at, and get on and do it. Okay, those are the behaviors that really come through. You know. Okay, so we've got 16 minutes left. Oh my word, and we've got time for questions. Time for Chelsea. Let me just hand over, move the slide. Okay, Chelsea, welcome back.
Thank you, Max. Yes, I'll introduce myself again. So my name is Chelsea Evans. And I'm an apprentice project manager for HS2. So I'm in the design team, and we'll talk a bit more about that later. So the key points, so I'm 20, I live in London. I'm that generic route from all the GCSEs, all the A levels, going straight into an apprenticeship. So just a bit of a timeline. Mine is just that generic order. So I completed my GCSEs. I went on to a BTEC in engineering, which was level 3. My apprenticeship now is level 4. So I again went to that consecutive next level of trying to get through that chain as well. And I'll talk a bit more about how sort of time management means to me. So time management has always been an important skill for me. It's an ongoing journey, really. In my last year of sixth form, I started working for a pizza restaurant, and I would start shifts as soon as I finished college. And this meant I would have to buy dinner on the go or on the bus journey before my shift started. And luckily, while I was at college, I had study periods in between classes, which meant I could complete work for the next day and manage all my work and workload that way. So it was important for me to be able to manage my time effectively. So in the context of, I had to make sure my clothes were organised from my work uniform or my school uniform, and make sure I had all the resources that I needed for tomorrow before my day even started. So next slide, please.
Yeah, I apologise again for that, Chelsea. I jumped the slide quickly. I was trying to get to a question, and I went forward too quickly. I apologise. Carry on.
That's right. So a bit more about HS2 and the ID design team. So working within the design team, I get to see all of HS2's design and how it will impact the line of route. It's a unique role being a project manager in the design team, and not the typical one, but it's a great role anyway. It's our job to see to make sure that we are incorporating people, place and time, and they're the trio that we're working towards. And since joining the design team, I manage design lunch and learns, which showcases work produced internally and within our contractors too, and making sure that we're reflecting and improving always. And these sessions are received well and twice a month, so it's a lot of planning, preparation, and managing time effectively, and engaging with people that might be very, very busy and not be able to respond to your email straight away. But since working for the design team, I've also managed a lot of design guidance again, so a lot of policies and approaches that we hopefully will leave that legacy and again continually improving. So along with time management, sorry, next slide please. So for me, communication is the be all end all, and it's vital for time management. So for me, I have regular conversations with my support network, which comprises of my line manager, my college tutor, and the talent team that recruited me and look after me. So in the context of someone at school, or when I was at school, that would again be my tutor, probably my careers advisor, and my family at home also, and that's still actually my support network being my family. So this communication can take place face-to-face, emails, meetings, calls, or written up in contracts as you're talking to people within the business. And I review my workload and availability with my line manager every 2 weeks in catch-ups, and the same again with the rest of my support network, just to make sure that they understand what I need and if any changes can be made, where. And it's also really important to communicate if you are struggling, because your support network is there to help you. Next slide, please. So my 5 key pieces, as you can see on screen with the icons. So taking regular breaks. Taking a break and stepping away is beneficial for your well-being, but also provides the opportunity for you to reflect and provide new perspectives on tasks. As Ature said, it can be 35 minutes, 50 minutes, whatever works for you, and wherever you think you're zoning out or again looking to another email, that's when you're losing concentration. It might be good to step away and come back with a fresh mind. This is something I still need to work on. And while at sixth form, lessons are shorter, and it would provide that that boundary for me. So for me, we have hour meetings. Potentially I could reduce it to 50 and make sure in that 10 minutes I'm getting up, going for a walk, getting a drink or anything like that. So number 2, keep your calendar up to date. So again, if you had extracurricular activities, football on the Tuesday, you've got history revision on a Wednesday, making sure that everyone knows where you're going to be, what you're doing. And it just helps people know that after 6 o'clock, you can't be contacted by your tutor or whoever, and making sure that you keep updating of what you have done. So looking that you did go to that history revision. And for me, that's part of my continual professional development log. So part of my apprenticeship, I'm logging any meetings I go to, any events like this, and showing what I've done and how that evidences my apprenticeship. So number 3, don't be afraid to say no. I think we've already touched on this before. It might be really difficult to say no, but it's really important to make sure all your rocks are aligned and you have enough that will fit in your jar, that you don't have overflowing. So for me, when I was at college, I tried to do as much as I could. So that would be going to being an ambassador role, which I'm still in now, but in a different situation. So I tried to go to all open days, all events, everything like that. But for me, I needed to focus on college work and passing exams. So I needed to, again, sort out my pebbles to my rocks and my sand. So number 4, plan meetings as much in advance as possible and be realistic with timings. So there are so many methods of communication to utilise. Sometimes it's just best to pick up a phone and have a 5-minute chat instead of scheduling another meeting for next week if it's something that's really urgent. So in a school environment, it's always worth staying behind in lesson, just to have a 5-minute chat with a tutor if needed, and raise any concerns or organise a meeting if you did want to escalate it, just communicating your issues. And number 5, keeping track and being organised. So this is important to show you have understanding and control of the tasks you've been set. So while I was applying for my apprenticeship, I applied for over 25 roles. Not just one. So make sure you do have a backup and a backup and a backup. So for me, they weren't all level 4, which is the current role I'm in. They range from level 3 up to 7, which is what the normal apprenticeships are. But I did want to do the next level up. So I wasn't going to do another level 3. I did want to do level 4. And they were all in different management roles. So it wasn't just project management, it could be production, all of those ones. And what I did is I kept track of interviews and where I was in the stages of those apprenticeship applications. And I had a conversation with a careers advisor who was actually shocked to see my schedule, and she was pleased to see how I was keeping track of it. So even if you just put it on a post-it note, just make sure you have it written down so you can show anyone else and communicate what's going on. And those are all my slides. So thank you very much.
Fantastic. That's amazing, Chelsea. Yes, both of you, amazing information and great to see two different apprentices at two different stages of life, but learning so much and providing so much value back to other students as well. Some really great advice from both. So Richard, back to you.
Yeah, thanks, Max. I'm thinking because we're running out of time a little bit, maybe we might miss out the quiz questions maybe, and just do the couple of slides on the job stuff and then have a Q&A. Would that be okay?
Absolutely. And then if we can go, we can always save those questions and go a few minutes over for who wants to stay and see the questions. But let me get to, so do we want to get to this slide here? Yep.
I think that's the one, yeah. So basically what we're saying here is that HS2 is a big project. We know about that, we talked about it already, and we need a lot of people to work for our project, in order for us to be able to build it. So this is a real challenge for us as a company, because if we can't get enough people to build it, we're not going to finish on time, we're not going to finish on budget. But for you as young people looking for opportunities, it's a great opportunity for you because you could be those people working for us. So some big figures there, 30,000 jobs at peak, 2,000 apprenticeships over the course of the project. These are opportunities for you, and 70% of those jobs outside of London. And these jobs are in construction, but there will be permanent jobs as well. So I think it's around 3,000 permanent jobs operating in the railway in the longer term as well. What I really wanted to focus on, though, is the next slide, which is talking a little bit about how we built the railway. So HS2 is a company, HS2 Limited, and it is a project. And basically what HS2 Limited, the company, have done is we've broken up the work that we're doing into multiple contracts. And you can see some examples on the screen there. So you've got things like the enabling works. That's what Chelsea mentioned earlier on about the environmental and the archaeology stuff, and things like the main work, civils, which is things like the building the bridges and the tunnels. So there's different stages of work. And basically, for each of those types of work, we also break it down into different regions as well. So what that means is we already have 30 or 40 major multi-million-pound contracts for suppliers that are working with us. And what that means for you is if you're interested in working for a project like HS2, you need to know about the supply chain as well. So I think there's a couple more bullets that are coming on this one, Max. Yeah, okay. So yeah, majority of jobs in the supply chain. So 1,500 jobs at HS2 Limited right now, 15,000 jobs in the supply chain at the moment, 30,000 jobs in the supply chain in 2 or 3 years' time. And that means you need to know who those suppliers are, and you need to be knowing about the opportunities they're giving people as well. So we've now got a supply chain jobs page. And if you go to that link, you'll be able to see by each area of the country what suppliers are working and what jobs they've got. And the next slide I want to show you is just about how to think about preparing yourself. So you might be interested in working in the rail industry, in the construction industry, in the engineering industry, or you might be interested in something completely different. But the point is, it doesn't actually matter what the project is. If it's building a station, building a stadium, installing broadband, when you've got an infrastructure project like HS2, it's a really common model to have a client and have suppliers. So HS2 are the client, we manage the projects overall, and we're looking for suppliers to do work for us. And whatever sector you're interested in, whatever project you're interested in, you need to be looking out on the news to see when contracts are being announced. So I've got a few examples of websites there. These are kind of industry websites like Global Railway News and Stadium Building News and Telecoms Magazine and stuff. They're all websites that you can just Google and find. And if you know what sector you're interested in, you need to look at those industry websites, and they'll be announcing who's won a contract. Now, what you know is that if someone's won a multi-million-pound contract in January this year, probably, June, July, they're going to be recruiting lots of apprentices, recruiting lots of graduates, recruiting lots of people for entry-level roles, because they're going to need to take on more staff now they've won that extra work. So if you are keeping an eye on the news, you're getting the first information about where those roles are going to be. You can start researching those companies, and you can start monitoring their websites. So as soon as the opportunities become available, you can grab them. A bit like Chelsea was saying, you're looking at 20 or 30 different roles. You need to be doing that research and finding out where the opportunities are. So that's it from me, Max. We've got 5 minutes left for questions, haven't we?
We have, and if guys, like in most of the sessions that I do, you guys think of questions afterwards. Remember that you can always email us your questions as well. Well, what questions have we got now for the apprentices? I mean, we've got some great information here, and I think Richard has just brought to life at the end there, following on from Achure and Chelsea. a vast amount of opportunities available in this huge project. I didn't quite realize how big it is, but it's not I don't understand it, but now I'm understanding it better. There's huge opportunities, huge. So what questions we got? I mean, I can think of Richard, when you say, you talk about the different sectors, that the services that work with you guys. I mean, so what does that mean? Do I approach HS2? Do I approach those companies? How do I get on it? What would be the best way to look for those jobs?
Well, certainly the supply chain jobs website is going to be really helpful now, because before it was quite tricky to know who those companies were, whereas now you can go to the jobs page, you can say that you live in London, or you live in Birmingham, or you live in the North East, wherever it is, and it will show you what the opportunities are. Now, at the moment, there's more opportunities in the West Midlands, London, and kind of the home counties between those two areas, because that's phase one where our main construction work's happening. But in the next 5 or 6 years, we'll start to see more stuff happening in the North as well.
And I suppose that's the point as well, isn't it? Because this project is moving through the country, so opportunities will appear at different stages. Will people get the chance to move with the project, or is it like you got a few years in London and then once that's done, you're finished, and then you'll go and hire somebody else further up? How does it work?
Well, I think, again, if you're talking about the client and supplier model, if you look at the engineers who work for HS2 Limited, a lot of them worked on the London Olympic Park, sort of a few years ago. They worked on Crossrail, and now they're working for HS2. So if you're interested in working in some of those specialist careers, one way of doing it is to sort of like move on to different projects at different companies. The other way is to work for one of the suppliers. So you might work for a company like Balfour Beatty, and they might win a contract to deliver certain work for HS2 for a few years, and then certain work for Crossrail for a few years, and then certain work for, I don't know, building the new Liverpool Stadium for a few more years. And you can sort of stay with one company, but be given different kind of contracts that they're working on. So I'd say those are probably the two main ways. And one great thing about this as a sector as well is a lot of our engineers have been and worked abroad as well. You might get called to go and install the new sort of subway system in Singapore or something. There can be great opportunities that you wouldn't have imagined.
Wow. Okay, so opportunities. And let me ask, guys, do think of questions to put in. On the type form that I've typed in there, as usual on our job ready sessions, you can then contact me for any questions that you think of after the session, especially if you're not comfortable asking it here. But I want to ask, so Achure, Chelsea, you guys, Achure, you said you've been with HS2 for seven months?
That's correct, yes.
So what's your plan? When you applied, what are you thinking for your future? Is it a long-term thing, or is it you want to get the apprenticeship and then move on to somewhere else? What was your plan, or what is your plan?
So I think the thing with the apprenticeship, it offers so many different avenues. I wanted to transition into project management, and it's not really an industry that you can just jump into. I think you really need to understand the skill set, and so that's why I chose to sort of start at an entry level and rise through. But I suppose my main objective was to get 2 years project management experience under my belt, get qualified, and also transition to a sector in an industry that I felt had a lot of potential to grow and a lot of opportunities to obviously stimulate my mind as well. So I do anticipate myself being at HS2 for quite a period of time. Obviously, we don't know what the future holds, but yeah, I can very much see myself here, because HS2 is an organization that is very much committed to growth and development. So I suppose at the age that a lot of attendees are on the call, you're at that age where you're thinking about further education, university, or a career path. And I think an opportunity to come and work, but also get education funded is so valuable, because there's opportunities to learn from, as Chelsea said, from level 3 right through to level 7. So you could find yourself doing an apprenticeship degree working within HS2. So yes, I don't know if it answered the question, but yeah, a myriad of options it presents itself.
Perfect. And that's another thing to think about as well, guys. The options, the further you go and the more you do, more options will open up to you. You've seen it's a huge project. I can't say it enough. It's a huge project with so many opportunities available. Keep your mind open as to where that could go, because you don't need to choose one thing and do it for the rest of your life, especially if you come to a point where you think, like Achure did, if not now, when? Let me get into what I really want to. So Chelsea, how long did you say you've been with HS2, and kind of what's your thinking for the future?
So I've been with HS2 before COVID, 2019. Yeah, September 2019 is when I joined HS2. So my introduction to business was a bit different to Achure's, but yeah, we're still in the same apprenticeship, and like I said, it's the learning about project management, as which is the skill in itself at an entry level, and being able to use those skills and transfer them to where we want to go. So for me, I'd like to continue up the rankings of a project manager, and with HS2 and support the project as well, just because being an apprentice is a unique opportunity in itself when working with an organisation. But HS2, again, it's another minefield, I guess, because you can grow and work within the project and progress and support it too, and see all those opportunities. So for me, it was about stepping outside of London. So a lot of my team is in Birmingham too. So for the first 6 months of my apprenticeship before COVID, I was travelling to Birmingham for college and also to see the rest of my team. So yeah, fully getting stuck in work life and commuting. So yeah, it's a lot of opportunities and things that come with it. So yeah, being an apprentice is great.
Great, brave moves as well. Well done. I commend you for taking on the challenges like that. Both of you actually for taking on those challenges. Okay, it's 2 minutes past 6. Richard, any final words?
Sorry, still on mute. You put me on the spot now. No, I mean, I think it's you know, it is such an exciting project, such an exciting sector. I mean, you know, it's really being involved in a project that's at the centre of the national conversation. It is a really exciting thing, and I think what Achiri said earlier on, you know, being involved in a project that is doing some good, you know, like we're going to be able to look back in sort of 15, 20 years time and sort of say we did that. And I think, you know, it's great to have a job where you do leave a bit of a legacy behind.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well said. And I'd like to say that I think this has been a fantastic session. So much information has been given across, but in such a nice way as well. Really valuable information that you students, you guys can take that info away and think about implementing it into your daily lives, even into your future once you get onto an apprenticeship or into full-time work. Remember the stuff that we've talked about here. Take some inspiration from both Achiri and Chelsea. Look at what they're achieving, okay? Look at what they're achieving and what they're going to go on and do. Look at their aspirations and ambitions. Take solace from that there are opportunities out there. Go and do it. Like Achiri said, I love it. If not now, when? Just get out there and do it. Go and do what you want to do, because the rocks are the really important things in life. Make sure that what you're doing is exciting you and important to you in your life. Otherwise, you're going to get out of bed and be bored. So guys, thank you so much. Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Achiri. Thank you, Chelsea, for coming along, giving up your time to speak to guys who are looking at their opportunities for the future.
Thank you for having us.
You're more than welcome.
Yeah,
and also
thank you.
Thank you.
You're more than welcome. More than welcome. And thank you to all the students as well that have come along, that have interacted, especially with the polls, with the quizzes. There's great questions in there and great information. So everybody, have a good evening. Thank you so much for today. And like I said, students, I know this normally happens. If you still got questions afterwards, remember, email me student@pathwayctm.com. If we've got any questions that we want to get over to HS2, we'll pass them over. Okay. So thanks, everybody. Have a good evening.
Thanks all.
Bye-bye.